Sandia National Laboratories once tested a solar engine that did something ordinary rooftop panels still struggle to do. It turned concentrated sunlight into grid-ready electricity with a measured net efficiency of 31.25%, a record for a field-tested solar conversion system. No silicon wafers, no semiconductor junctions, no rare earth-dependent panel chemistry. Just a sealed charge of hydrogen gas, a precision engine, and a mirrored dish wide enough to catch the sun like a giant metal flower. The strange part is not that it worked. The strange part is that almost nobody uses it. A single 25 kilowatt unit could stand on a footprint smaller than many parking spaces, yet produce enough peak power to cover the needs of an average home with room left over. Its basic principle is more than 2 centuries old, but its best test results were modern, measured, and documented. This machine is called a Dish Stirling system, and its story begins with a Scottish minister who was trying to stop engines from killing people. To understand why this forgotten solar engine matters, you have to go back to the early 1800s to Kilmarnock, Scotland. In 1816, Robert Stirling was only 26 years old and newly ordained as a Presbyterian minister. But outside the church, the industrial world around him was becoming more dangerous every year. Steam engines were spreading through mines, mills, and factories, yet their boilers were often unstable. When pressure built too high, metal failed, and workers could be killed in an instant. Stirling believed there had to be a safer way to turn heat into motion. He did not have modern alloys, computer machining, or advanced seals. What he had was a simple but powerful idea. Instead of boiling water and venting steam, he imagined a sealed engine filled with a fixed amount of air. Heat one side, cool the other, and the gas would expand and contract again and again, pushing a piston without explosive pressure. Just days after his ordination, Stirling patented what he called a heat economizer. By 1818, a small version was already pumping water from a quarry. The reason the Stirling engine became so interesting for solar power is that it does not care where the heat comes from. Coal, wood gas, or sunlight can all do the same job if the temperature difference is strong enough. That is why decades after Robert Stirling inventors began pairing the closed-cycle engine with mirrors. A Dish Stirling system looks a little like a satellite dish, but every mirrored segment is curved to aim sunlight toward one exact focal point. Instead of spreading sunlight across a flat panel, it squeezes that energy into a small receiver. In well-designed systems, the concentration can rise above 2,000 suns, meaning the receiver is absorbing thousands of times more solar energy than the same surface would receive naturally. Inside that receiver sits the hot end of the Stirling engine. A sealed working gas, often hydrogen, because it transfers heat quickly, is heated to several hundred degrees Celsius. As the gas expands, it pushes pistons. Then it passes through a regenerator, loses part of its heat till the cycle enters a cooler chamber and contracts. That repeating expansion and contraction spins a crankshaft, and the crankshaft drives a generator. This is not the photovoltaic effect. There is no silicon cell waiting for photons to knock electrons loose. It is closer to an old mechanical engine, except the fuel is concentrated sunlight. To keep the hot spot locked on the receiver, the dish follows the sun on 2 axes moving left to right and up and down throughout the day. When aligned correctly, it turns a patch of desert sunlight into mechanical power with remarkable precision. Cloud cover exposes one of the most misunderstood parts of this technology. When a cloud passes in front of the sun, the dish does not suddenly collapse into failure. The heat input drops, the engine slows, and when direct sunlight returns, the system rises back toward full output. The receiver keeps a small amount of residual heat, so short interruptions are less violent than people imagine, especially compared with systems that rely only on instantaneous light. A normal photovoltaic panel works in a very different way. It turns sunlight directly into electricity through semiconductor physics. That simplicity is useful, but it also comes with a ceiling. A single-junction silicon cell is limited by the Shockley-Queisser principle, which puts the theoretical maximum around 1/3 of incoming sunlight. In real homes, panels usually perform below that, often near the low 20s, under actual operating conditions, sometimes lower under heat. The Dish Stirling system avoids that exact bottleneck because it does not begin with electrons, it begins with heat. The mirror concentrates energy, the receiver absorbs it, and the engine converts that heat into motion. This is why federal tests mattered so much. In 1984, the Electric Power Research Institute tested the 25 kilowatt Vanguard dish Stirling unit in Rancho Mirage, California. It reached 29, 4% net solar to grid efficiency, a record that lasted for more than 20 years. In January 2008, Sandia National Laboratories and Stirling Energy Systems pushed the record even higher. Their Suncatcher unit, standing about 38 feet tall, was tested in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and delivered 31.25% net solar-to-grid efficiency. For a real field system, not a laboratory cell, under perfect indoor conditions, that number was extraordinary. At that time, many commercial photovoltaic panels were still operating around 15 to 18% efficiency. So the Suncatcher was not just slightly better. Per square meter of collector area, it could produce nearly twice as much electricity as the panels being sold to ordinary homeowners. Each unit was rated at 25 kilowatts of peak power. In simple terms, one dish could cover the peak demand of many homes depending on sunlight and usage. It also had another advantage that mattered in dry regions. The basic design did not need water for cooling. Unlike many solar thermal plants, it could operate without consuming large volumes of water. No combustion, no exhaust, no smoke, just mirrors heat hydrogen and a quiet mechanical cycle turning sunlight into electricity. So why did a machine this efficient never become common? The answer was not physics, it was manufacturing. Photovoltaic panels became cheap because they could be produced like electronics, flat, repeatable, stackable, and easy to ship by the millions. Once Chinese manufacturers expanded production at massive scale, the price per watt fell faster than almost anyone expected. A dish Stirling unit was different. It was not just a panel, it was a precision machine. It needed a curved reflector, a high-temperature receiver, a sealed hydrogen engine, tight machining tolerances, and a dual-axis tracker. At low production volume, every unit was expensive before it ever produced electricity. For a brief moment, it looked as if dish Stirling power might break through at utility scale. In 2005, Stirling Energy Systems signed a huge power purchase agreement with Southern California Edison for an 850 megawatt solar project in San Bernardino County. At the time, it was one of the largest solar contracts ever announced. A second deal followed with San Diego Gas and Electric for another 709 megawatts. On paper, the company had everything it needed: record-setting test data, government laboratory validation, utility contracts, and a technology that could convert sunlight with unmatched efficiency. But the market changed faster than the machines could be deployed. Between 2008 and 2011, photovoltaic panel prices collapsed. Subsidized manufacturing, especially from China, pushed panel costs down so quickly that project developers began choosing the cheaper upfront option. Dish Stirling still looked better in efficiency, but photovoltaic looked better on a spreadsheet. That difference mattered. Investors and utilities were not mainly asking which technology converted the most sunlight into electricity. They were asking which one gave the lowest installed cost per watt right now. The Calico Solar project became the clearest example. After K Road Power Holdings bought the project, most of the planned Dish Stirling capacity was converted to photovoltaic. Other projects struggled to secure financing and federal loan guarantees. Then, on September 29, 2011, Stirling Energy Systems filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and liquidated. The technology was not abandoned because the engine stopped working. It was abandoned because a cheaper manufacturing model overtook it before it could scale. No secret committee had to bury it. The market did the job quietly. The most efficient field-tested solar engine lost to the option that was easier, flatter, cheaper, and faster to mass produce. If someone wants to test the idea at home, the entry-level version is not a giant commercial suncatcher. It begins with a simple parabolic reflector, often an old satellite dish lined with mirror tiles or reflective film. The goal is to make the dish concentrate direct sunlight onto one small point, then place a small Stirling engine at that focus. A 6-foot dish can create enough heat to run a demonstration engine and produce a modest amount of electricity, usually somewhere in the range of 50 to 200 watts if the alignment is good and the engine is efficient. That is not enough to power a whole house, but it is enough to charge batteries, run small DC loads, or prove the concept in a visible way. The cheap part is the reflector surface. Reflective film may cost only a few dozen dollars. The expensive part is the engine. A small machined Stirling unit suitable for solar demonstration can cost several $100s. A realistic proof of concept build often lands between $400 and $800 with focal precision, deciding whether it works beautifully or barely works at all. The sun must land in a tight spot. For a serious off-grid system, the scale changes completely. Instead of a recycled satellite dish, you would need a custom parabolic reflector between 5 and 7 meters wide, built accurately enough to keep sunlight focused on a small receiver. That dish also needs a strong foundation because wind loads on a mirror that large can become dangerous. The mount must track the sun on 2 axes. A small motor and controller constantly adjust the dish so the focal point stays locked on the engine through the day. The receiver must survive temperatures above 500 degrees Celsius, while the Stirling engine has to remain sealed, pressurized, and precisely balanced. This is why household-scale dish Stirling power is not a casual weekend project. A professional 1 to 3 kilowatt installation can cost thousands of dollars, often in the same broad range as a rooftop photovoltaic system of similar rated capacity. The difference is that in strong direct sunlight, the dish Stirling unit can produce more energy from the same collector area under clear desert skies each year. The most interesting upgrade is thermal storage. Instead of sending all heat directly into the engine, the dish can heat sand, ceramic, or molten salt during the day. After sunset, the stored heat can keep the Stirling engine running without batteries. Maintenance is mostly mirrors tracking calibration seals and hydrogen pressure. The dish Stirling system is a reminder that the best technology does not always win. Here was a machine based on a 200-year-old thermodynamic idea, refined with modern materials, validated by federal laboratories, and proven in the field at a level of solar-to-grid efficiency no ordinary rooftop panel could match. Yet it disappeared from the mainstream because the market rewarded the cheapest installed watt, not the most sunlight converted into useful electricity. Photovoltaic panels were simpler to mass produce, easier to finance, and easier to explain. Dish Stirling was more complex, more mechanical, and harder to scale quickly. That does not make it a failure. It makes it a buried path that still shows what solar power can become when heat mirrors and precision engineering are allowed to work together. A lot of forgotten technologies were not rejected because they were useless. They were rejected because something cheaper arrived first. And sometimes the future is hidden inside an old invention waiting to be rediscovered.